Hello everybody, this is Tim here again, another movie review, this time for Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire. Now, as far as this film goes, in terms of the MonsterVerse, they've had quite a few films up to this point. You've got the Godzilla 2014 film, the King of the Monsters Godzilla film, the Skull Island film, the Godzilla vs. Kong film, and now we have The New Empire. We also had the Monarch show, which I actually haven't watched, but I actually do plan on seeing, because I just figured, what the hell, might as well catch up with this universe. As far as this film goes, I'll go ahead and say I liked it. Didn't like it as much as Godzilla vs. Kong, but overall I enjoyed it. As far as the MonsterVerse goes, if you haven't seen my other reviews for these films, the 2014 Godzilla film I did like. From 1 to 4 stars, I gave it like a 3 out of 4. I liked it. I didn't love it. The Mutos and that, the pincher bugs or whatever, they were kind of generic as a monster for Godzilla to face. And Godzilla just wasn't on screen enough. Like, I believe Gareth Edwards directed that. I think that's who it was. And overall, in terms of the directing, he just kept teasing Godzilla over and over, and by halfway through the film, it just got old. Overall, though, when Godzilla was actually on screen and kicking ass, it was a good film. It was a 3 out of 4 for me for the Godzilla action. The second film, Godzilla King of the Monsters, a lot of people don't seem to like. But for me personally, I enjoyed it. I liked it better than the 2014 film. For me, that one would be a 4 out of 4. It gave me what I wanted. More of what I wanted. You still got the boring human element drama story they try to go for that tries to give the film like a more morose, overly serious tone, despite the fact it's a bunch of monsters fighting. Once you get past that Vera Farmiga thing and all that, the movie was fun. King Ghidorah was a great villain. I liked the action between him and Godzilla. Seeing Mothra there was cool. Rodan as an asshole was fun. It was fun. When the Godzilla action and stuff happening, which was more frequent, and that's what I wanted from a Godzilla film. 90% of the Godzilla films are destruction porn with Godzilla whooping another monster's ass. This is what that is. This is what they gave me as a Godzilla fan. I was satisfied. The third film, Kong Skull Island, this is actually a lot of people's favorites of the MonsterVerse films, and I can kind of see why, because it has that element towards like more of a survival type movie or whatever, where it's like the characters trying to basically survive Skull Island. And overall, this one would be another 4 out of 4 for me as well. I thought it was a great fun time. I did enjoy King of the Monsters more slightly, even though I think this film probably plays smoother in terms of its story. But at the same time, I had more fun with King of the Monsters because I'm a bigger Godzilla fan, and that movie gave me like more monsters and stuff or whatever, more cool like monster movie moments. Sorry, I had a piece of I had a flake in my hair right there, a piece of dust or whatever. But yeah, that one gave me more monster movie action and stuff as compared to like Kong Skull Island. But Kong Skull Island was really fun. So yeah, it's still a 4 out of 4 for me. I was definitely better than Godzilla 2014, which at the same time I didn't hate. Godzilla vs. Kong, I really enjoyed. I thought that one was extremely fun. It's more of a Kong movie, but Godzilla is definitely the co-star. And it works perfectly as like even and out with Kong and Godzilla. And having Kong as a star makes sense to me because he's the more human character. So it makes sense to me that the film is more based around Kong. So I was fine with it. But that one was a 4 out of 4. It's my favorite of the MonsterVerse films. This one, Kong X Godzilla, it wouldn't be a 4 out of 4, but it would still be a 3.5 out of 4. For me, this was a really good time. This movie feels a bit more. It definitely feels a bit more lightweight in terms of the story and what's going on. Like, you don't really feel stakes in this. It's more just kind of a sugar rush. They just want to have fun with it. And you got Rebecca Hall back here and the little like deaf girl, whatever that was in the last one that was communicating with Kong with sign language. She's probably the best of the human characters, and she does a good job here. Still, she was good in the last one too. Having them back, instead of Alexander Skarsgård, we got Dan Stevens, which he's good here. He uses his accent or whatever. He's perfectly likable here. He's got charm to him. You got Brian Tyler Henry back, who's perfectly fine and adequate as the comedy relief. You know what you're getting into with these films. They're destruction porn films. I know there's been some people got comparing them to Godzilla Minus One. Films like Godzilla Minus One are like the exceptions for genre films like this, because those films are movies where it is really about the human story, and Godzilla is just kind of, or the monster is just kind of the destruction killing machine, and it's like really used as like an artistic metaphor for something else that's going on in Japan or whatever, or has went on. Here, these are monster mash movies, which is what the majority of Godzilla movies are. And I'm fine with that. I'm fine with it. That's what the majority of these destruction movies are with monsters. So like slasher films, the majority of them are the killer taking out dumb, unsuspecting teenage characters. It's the same thing. They're destruction films. You know what you're getting into when you go to these destruction monster movies. All it matters is the film fun. It doesn't entertain you. And for me, it did. 3.5 out of 4. This film's like a sugar rush. It is lightweight in terms of story, even more lightweight than any of the other MonsterVerse films. But it's really fun. The human characters, like I said, with the Rebecca Hall thing and like the adopted daughter, the deaf girl from the last one, she starts having like psychic visions and everything, and it's like this her tribe or whatever, her ancestors who are part of this tribe are like still alive, and they're like inside the Hollow Earth where Kong is at. They have the ability to like psychically communicate, and they're trying to get a hold of her or whatever to basically tell her about the Scar King and everything that's going on. All of this takes up time in the movie and really doesn't really go anywhere. Like all of this could have been pretty much like written out. It's really just basically used for a way by the end to like show that Mothra has reincarnated and Mothra's back again. You didn't really need that for that. Like you could have just had Mothra show up as an egg or something. Like you could have cut all of this out with the whole Lost Tribe thing and all that. It doesn't really add to anything. You could have cut all that out and just focused more on Kong and the Scar King. And that's when the movie like really picks up for me. When it starts focusing on even with the human stuff, it's more like, well, it's all right. It's at best it's decent at times, and at worst it's okay or passable. But it's never really horrible. But it's just not needed. It just feels like it's there just to kill time. When they get to the Scar King or whatever, and Kong finds the Scar King, and he meets like this little mini Kong, who I believe is actually called Suko on the action figure. But he meets him, and he like at first like Suko or whatever is like trying to trick Kong, and they're gonna like attack him, and he's got his buddies with him, and Kong like picks the little Kong up and starts like using him to like beat the other Kongs. That was pretty hilarious. And he gets him to like take him to where the Scar King is at, where he came from. And on the way, he starts like befriending the little Kong, and you basically realize that all the other monkeys that are evil or whatever that are working for the Scar King are that way because they've been abused for so long. So hate and evil is all they know because they've been mistreated for so long. Kong gets there. He gets in a fight with the Scar King. Scar King wants to establish dominance. Some people don't like Scar King as the villain because they feel like he's underwhelming as a villain for both Kong and Godzilla. And that's true. In the one-on-one fight between Kong or Godzilla, they could both take him. Godzilla easily could take him. Kong would have a harder time. They show that he would have a harder time with him, but at the same time, they do show that Kong would ultimately take him in a fight. Because towards the end of the fight with the Scar King, he does start to like kind of get an advantage or whatever, show that he's holding his own. And so that's when Scar King brings out his secret weapon, which is Shimu, this ice dinosaur, basically a version of Godzilla. And it has the ability to breathe ice, which is pretty cool. My son watched this. That was his favorite character. He just thought it was cool that it breathed ice. And the Scar King is basically controlling it through this like magic crystal that just enables to inflict pain on it or whatever somehow because of some bonds it has on its body. That doesn't really make sense. But like I said, that's the dumb thing. But you're having fun with the monsters, and they animate the monsters to give them human characteristics and everything to make them enjoyable to watch. Especially the Scar King when he's looking at Kong or whatever, he's like pointing at him, like looking back at everybody, like he's gonna challenge me. It's pretty funny. But yeah, the Shimu thing, the ice one, it like breathes ice or whatever and damages Kong's hand. Um, but like I said, I do like the Scar King as a villain because I like that he isn't indestructible. He knows that he's outmatched certain ways, so he uses the Shimu Ice Dinosaur thing or whatever Titan as basically his way to control everybody. So I actually didn't mind that. So he's kind of just an asshole. I didn't really mind that. But anyway, so Kong gets away. Dan Stevens builds the mechanical glove hand thing you see in the trailer for Kong. He has it coincidentally, which that's when the film does get a little ridiculous when Kong's got the mecha hand. But it does make for some cool action scenes. So he has to go to Godzilla to get Godzilla for help. And that's another thing. Godzilla's not in this film as much at all. He does feel like an afterthought here. Unlike Godzilla versus Kong, where he really felt like a co-star, here he feels like a supporting character in a Kong movie. And the director said that when he gets to do the third one, or if he gets to do the third one, if this makes money, and it is making money, that he'll center the third one around Godzilla instead of Kong this time. So that's cool. I think that'll help even things out. But yeah, Godzilla is much more of just a supporting character here for the most part. He's just kind of interspersed in the movie, just like going around doing random stuff, beating up other Titans so he can steal their energy. And the fights are just kind of okay. He's just kind of there. But it's still cool seeing him, some of the destruction and everything that he's causing. And that's when he absorbs some radiation from another Titan. That's what gives him his new pink form, which is pretty cool because he's basically able to like do big sonic boom waves or whatever after this, which is kind of cool. Similar to like his burning mode at the end of Godzilla King of the Monsters. And this is funny. Kong goes to him for help, and he's like pointing, like trying to talk to Godzilla, and Godzilla just attacks him out of pure rage. And you get a scene where he like suplexes Kong, which is pretty hilarious. But after that, Kong gets like really pissed off, and he decides to use his like robot glove or whatever against him, and he like unleashes on Godzilla and hits him so many times with it. He basically dazes him. He doesn't knock him out, but he does put him in a daze for a little bit, and he's like starts dragging him by the tail because he wants his help. And then Godzilla wakes up, and Godzilla's super pissed, and Godzilla like flies off on him and starts using like everything he's got, and he kicks Kong's ass after that, and he's got him down on the ground about to kill him. And then Mothra shows up, and the fight stops. They still go out of their way to show that Godzilla is superior to Kong, regardless of any upgrades Kong has. Just like in the Godzilla vs. Kong movie, they still go out of their way to show that Godzilla is superior to Kong in both films, which makes sense. He is the king of monsters, regardless of the fact he has a smaller role here. He's still the top dog, pretty much. Is what I'm saying. But Mothra interrupts the fight, explains to Godzilla what the hell's going on with Scar King, and you find out that Godzilla actually was the one who imprisoned the Scar King and his army like centuries later. So that monkey's been down there for centuries. And they go down there to basically whoop Scar King's ass. That's when you get the scene from the trailer where they're busting up out of the ground and like running together, and Kong jumps on like the side of Godzilla and then leaps off of him and starts fighting the Scar King. And the Scar King has the ice dinosaur there, Shimu, and they start fighting, and you get like this kind of ridiculous, like, well, not ridiculous, but it is actually cool, but they don't really explain it well, like some kind of the tectonic plates or something are moving or whatever because of the tribe or whatever the little girl belongs to. It's causing like zero gravity to happen inside Hollow Earth. It doesn't really make much sense. It's explained in a lot of scientific gobbledygook, and it's just it's not really understandable. But the scene happens. That is a dumb thing in the plot, though. The plot is weak with the whole tribe thing and everything, and then being like there. It's just not needed. But the zero gravity scene, though, is cool to see Godzilla like fighting against the Shimu ice dinosaur or whatever in zero gravity. She freezes Godzilla, and Godzilla like breaks out of the ice and keeps charging. Pretty cool. And then they end up flying through portals, and they get to the upper world. And when they're there, this is pretty cool fight scene. That, like I said, they go out of their way to show that Godzilla could like easily whoop the Scar King's ass. Like the Scar King tries to take him out with a whip, and Godzilla literally grabs it, puts it in his mouth, bites the end of it off with the crystal, slings the crystal down. Basically, the crystal falls down, takes out the whip, and then just starts blasting, like spamming uncontrollably his new, more powerful fire breath, the pink version. Scar King's running, just trying to get away. He's just getting dominated, and then he grabs the end of the crystal, thinking he's got it, and he looks over and he's like, oh crap, there's Godzilla's breath still coming, and he drops it again and takes off running. Like, they go out of the way to show that one-on-one, especially Godzilla, could easily take the Scar King. That might be a problem with somebody, but I actually, with some people, but I actually didn't mind that, because I like how he is outmatched, and so he has to use the Shimu thing or whatever. I just like how he's like, an asshole type bad guy. I like that, kind of scummy. The way they portray him in the movie, I didn't mind that, like a slave master. I thought it was kind of fun. But yeah, and he's getting a fight with Kong. Kong's getting the upper hand, and then the crystal gets destroyed by the little monkey, Suko, who takes it out with Kong's axe that he managed to bring with him. And that's when the Shimu thing is no longer under Scar King's control. I believe it's a girl, the Shimu creature is, and it freezes the Scar King, and then that's when Kong busts him into pieces, which is pretty cool. So that's done. Godzilla, like when they first show up, the Scar King's like having Shimu like put on another ice age, so Shimu like freezes the atmosphere basically. And then when Godzilla's there, he puts his head up in the sky and shoots like a big atomic blast and unfreezes everything, which is pretty awesome. And then so it's over. Kong goes back with a little mini Kong that he's bonded with. You get some cute moments with them. And he goes back with Shimu is back with him, and he's going to rule over, his kingdom, including the other monkeys or whatever, as like a benevolent king, which is cool. And then Godzilla just goes back to sleep in the Coliseum. He's like, man, same shit, different day, I'm going to bed. So that was kind of amusing, but at the same time, it also shows that Godzilla didn't really come off like he had any stakes in this movie in terms of what was going on. He's just like, well, that's over, going back to sleep. So, yeah. And then so it gets, and that's pretty much the end of the movie, really. And so overall, it's a 3.5 out of 4. It's a fun movie. The stuff with the humans does drag for a bit, but once it really gets into like the Kong story of him and like the little Kong like bonding with him and all that, and then fighting the Scar King and everything, dealing with him, it does become really fun. Overall, and Godzilla is underused, but when Godzilla is on screen, they do make him a badass, and his scenes are really cool. Overall, it's a 3.5 out of 4. This is a really fun, sugar-coated movie that's easily, if you're into these characters, if you're into Godzilla and Kong, and you know what you're getting into with these films, which I have no idea why you wouldn't know that these are just going to be destruction porn and fun movies, blockbuster flicks. that are completely harmless, um, then it's a totally fun movie and easily worth seeing in theaters. It's not as good as Godzilla vs. Kong, I don't think, but it is still really good and a completely harmless fun time. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you again.